Far away in the quiet reaches of space, the colony world of Zirin spun slowly under a pale blue sun. The planet was peaceful and full of green forests and calm lakes. Its people lived simple lives, farming crops and studying stars. They never wanted to fight or hurt anyone. Their homes were soft and bright, and their cities were gentle places where kindness was more important than power. One day, in a small research station near the edge of the forest, a young technician named Remy sat watching the screen of the communication array. The machine had been quiet for many days, only sending normal messages between Zirin and nearby colonies. But then, suddenly, a strange signal appeared on the screen. It was faint and broken, but very clear in one way. It was an SOS. Someone far away was asking for help. Remy's heart beat faster as the message repeated itself. The SOS signal came from a planet deep in a dangerous star system. No one had visited that place before. The message was short and urgent. It spoke of fear, of enemies closing in, and a plea for rescue. The words were not easy to understand, but the meaning was clear. Remy called the station leader, an older woman named Jorah, who had led many missions. Jorah frowned when she heard the news. An SOS means someone is in great trouble, she said quietly. We must tell the council. The council was a group of elders who guided Zirin's people. They were wise and careful. When Jorah and Remy presented the message, the council gathered in the round chamber beneath the big trees. They listened closely to the SOS signal. The message is real, said Jorah, but the planet is in a dangerous system. We do not know what waits there. A man named Darren, one of the council members, spoke with concern. Zirin has always stayed safe by avoiding fights. We do not have soldiers or weapons. What can we do if we send help and meet enemies? The elders debated for many hours. Some felt they should answer the call, to help others in need no matter the danger. Others feared risking their peaceful world by sending people into a place they did not understand. Meanwhile, Remy sat by the communication screen, listening as the SOS repeated. The message was desperate. The people sending it were trapped by creatures that seemed violent and strong. The signal was weak but steady. It needed rescuers soon. Finally, the council made a decision. They would send a small group of scientists and explorers to investigate. They chose Jorah to lead the team. We will go carefully, she promised. We want to help, but we must also protect our people. Preparations began quickly. The colony built a small ship equipped with scanners and light defenses. It was not a warship. It was a craft meant to explore and rescue. Jorah's team included Remy, a medic named Sella, and a pilot named Torin. They trained day and night, learning to use their tools and communicate with the home base. As the ship stood ready on the launch platform, many people gathered to watch. They hoped for a miracle, but feared what might come. The sky was clear, and the stars shone bright as the ship lifted off quietly, far away from Zirin. Another group of people watched the same SOS signal. These were the Deathworlders. They came from a harsh planet filled with storms, predators, and constant danger. Their lives were tough. They were strong and ready for battle at any moment. Their leader, Niall, was a man known for courage and skill. When he saw the SOS, he smiled. Finally, some action, he said. The Deathworlders never ran from danger. They believed strength was the only way to survive. Niall gathered his warriors and prepared their powerful ships for departure. The Deathworlders' ships were dark and heavy, built for war. They carried many weapons and armor. Their people had faced countless threats and had learned to fight and win. The SOS was a call they could not ignore. Back on the peaceful world of Zirin, Jorah's team approached the dangerous star system. The ship's sensors picked up strange readings. The planet sending the SOS was covered in thick clouds, and strange shapes moved on its surface. Jorah ordered the ship to slow down. We must be careful, she said. The crew watched the planet grow larger through the windows. It looked wild and untamed. Jorah remembered the council's warning. This was no place for peaceful talks alone. Suddenly, the ship's instruments detected movement near the landing zone. Shadows flickered across the scanners. The SOS signal grew stronger, but also more broken. Jorah knew that time was running out. They landed in a clearing surrounded by thick trees. The air was heavy, and the sounds of strange creatures filled the space. The team stepped out carefully, scanning every direction. Remy pointed to a trail of broken branches. "Someone passed this way," he said. "We must follow." The group moved slowly, aware of danger at every step. They found signs of struggle, footprints, broken tools, and scorch marks on the trees. The scientists who sent the SOS were close, but hiding as they followed the trail. They heard a faint voice. It was weak but human. Jorah raised her hand, signaling the team to be quiet. They moved toward the sound. In a small clearing they found. To scientists, they were tired, scared, and injured. The scientists explained that alien creatures had attacked their research station. The creatures were large, fast, and very dangerous. The scientists had sent the SOS hoping someone would come before it was too late. Jorah looked around and knew the team had to act quickly. "We will help you," she said firmly. "But we need to stay calm and work together." Remy examined the injuries while Scylla prepared medical supplies. Torn scanned the area for threats. The team set up a small camp, ready for whatever might come next. As night fell, strange noises echoed through the trees. The team could feel eyes watching them from the shadows. The SOS had brought help, but the danger was still very real. Back on Zirin, the council watched the live feed from Jorah's ship. The peaceful people hoped their team could succeed without violence, but some were far away. The Deathworlders' ships raced toward the same planet, ready to answer the SOS with power and fire. The first part of the story ends with the two very different groups heading toward the unknown, each prepared to face what comes in their own way. Far beyond the peaceful world of Zirin, the Deathworlders' fleet sped through the dark void of space. Their ships were large and strong, built to survive the worst storms and hardest battles. Each ship carried warriors trained from childhood to fight and protect their home. Their leader, Nile, stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the star map carefully. "This SOS is no accident," Nile said with a hard voice. "Someone is in real danger. We will find them. We will destroy any enemy that stands in our way." Around him, the Deathworlders prepared for battle. The soldiers checked their armor and weapons, their faces serious and full of purpose. They were not gentle like the people of Zirin. They were fighters. They knew the value of strength and power. Nile's ship moved closer to the SOS planet. Thick clouds covered the surface, and flashes of lightning lit up the dark skies. The Deathworlders had heard stories about this place, a world filled with dangers unlike any other. It was a test for their skill and courage. The ship entered the atmosphere with a powerful roar. The sky was a violent mix of colors, and the wind pushed hard against the metal hull. The Deathworlders landed near the place where the SOS had come. From as the heavy doors opened, a group of warriors stepped out into the wild land. The ground was rough, covered with sharp rocks and strange plants. The air was thick and smelled strange. The Deathworlders smiled. This was their home in many ways, a place where only the strongest survived. Nile led his team forward. Their scanners picked up movement nearby. The alien creatures that hunted the scientists were close. The Deathworlders did not hesitate. Suddenly, a loud roar came from the forest. A huge beast charged at them, its claws ready to tear. The warriors raised their weapons and fired. Bright beams of energy lit up the dark trees. The beast fell quickly under the firepower. The other creatures growled and circled the group, but the Deathworlders stood firm. They moved with skill and strength, cutting through the threats with ease. Their training showed in every move. After the fight, Nile called out, "Search for the survivors. We must find the ones who sent the SOS." The warriors spread out and soon found the same group of scientists that Jorah's team had located earlier. The scientists looked shocked at first when they saw the Deathworlders. Their armor was heavy and their faces were stern. This was no gentle rescue party. One scientist, a woman named Mira, stepped forward. "We are grateful you came," she said quickly, "but please be careful. The creatures here are dangerous, and this planet is not safe." Nile nodded. We will keep you safe. No one will harm you while we are here. The scientists led the Deathworlders to their ruined research station. The place was broken and burned in many spots. Equipment was smashed, and papers flew in the wind. The scientists explained what had happened. They had been studying the planet's strange life when the alien creatures attacked without warning. The Deathworlders listened but showed no fear. To them, this was a fight like many others. They had faced worse dangers and had survived. Nile looked at the scientists and said, "We will stay until this threat is gone. You will be safe." While the Deathworlders set up a camp near the station, Nile sent scouts into the forest to learn more about the alien enemies. His warriors moved with quiet steps, watching and waiting. Meanwhile, back at the landing site, another ship arrived. This was Jorah's small team from Zirin. They had followed the trail to the same place. When the two groups met, there was a moment of surprise. Jorah stepped forward and said, "We received the same SOS. We are here to help too." Nile looked at her calmly. "We answer danger with firepower. We will destroy anything that threatens." These people, Jorah shook her head. "We must try to find peace. Not everything needs to be fought." The two leaders understood they came from very different worlds. The gentle people from Zirin hoped to solve problems with talk and care. The Deathworlders trusted their strength and weapons still. They shared a common goal: to protect the scientists and stop the alien creatures. That night, both groups camped near the research station. The forest noises grew louder, strange. Sounds echoed from deep within the shadows. Both teams felt the weight of danger. Remy, the young technician from Zirin, watched the Deathworlders carefully. He admired their courage but worried about their force. "We must find a way to work together," he said quietly to Sela, the medic. Sela nodded. "Yes, we need their strength. But we must keep our hope for peace far in the dark forest." The alien creatures prepared for their next attack. Their sharp eyes glowed in the night. They had already destroyed much, but they would not stop. The creatures saw the new rivals as enemies to be wiped out. The Deathworlders stood ready. Nile checked his weapons and looked at his warriors. "We will show these creatures what it means to face Deathworlders. They will learn fear." Jorah spoke softly to her team. "Remember, we protect life. We must not lose ourselves to anger or violence." Both sides waited for what would come next. The SOS had brought help, but now a greater battle was near. The fate of the stranded scientists, the two rescue groups, and the strange planet itself was about to be decided. The forest was alive with strange sounds. Leaves rustled under invisible footsteps, and distant cries echoed through the thick trees. The small group of scientists, the Zirin team, and the Deathworlders all stayed close together near the ruined research station. The night was dark and full of unknown dangers. Jorah, the leader of the peaceful Zirin team, stood beside Nile, the tough leader of the Deathworlders. Both watched the forest carefully. The scientists, though scared, were relieved to see so many protectors around them. Suddenly, a movement caught Remy's eye. He pointed toward the thick bushes where shadows shifted. "Something is coming," he whispered. Nile raised his hand. "Prepare yourselves," he ordered in a low voice. From the dark forest, strange creatures appeared. They were tall and thin but fast and fierce. Their eyes glowed red, and their claws looked sharp as knives. They moved with silent speed and surrounded the group quickly. The scientists gasped and tried to step back, but the Deathworlders moved forward without fear. They lifted their weapons, heavy rifles, and energy blasters, ready to fight. The creatures growled and lunged forward. Bright beams of energy and sharp bursts of light filled the clearing. The Deathworlders fired with skill and power. Their weapons hit the creatures, and many fell quickly. The forest shook with the sounds of battle. Jorah held her ground but did not join the fight. She watched the scene with worry. Her people were not trained for war, and she hoped the violence would end soon. The fight was fast and fierce. The creatures tried to circle around the defenders, but the Deathworlders worked together. They moved like a well-trained pack, covering each other's backs. Even the peaceful scientists helped by carrying the injured and moving supplies. After several minutes, the creatures stopped attacking. Many lay on the ground, motionless. The forest was quiet once again, except for the heavy breathing of the warriors. Niall lowered his weapon and looked around. "They will come again," he said. "This planet's enemies do not give up easily." Jorah stepped forward. "We need to find where they come from. If we can stop their source, the danger will end." Niall nodded. "Agreed. We will send scouts to search deeper into the forest." That night, the teams prepared for the next day. Fires were lit to keep the dark away. The scientists told stories of their time on the planet and the strange things they had seen. They spoke of plants that could glow in the dark and creatures that could disappear in the blink of an eye. Remy and Sella, the medic, examined the injured from both groups. The Deathworlders' wounds were few, thanks to their armor and training. The scientists had suffered more from surprise attacks and harsh conditions. Despite their differences, the people found moments of quiet friendship. Remy shared his food with a young Deathworlder warrior. Sella helped heal a small cut on a scientist's hand. The night was a brief pause in the danger. Before dawn, Niall's scouts returned with news. They had found a large nest deep in the forest. It was filled with strange eggs and guarded by even more fierce creatures. Jorah looked at the map the scouts drew. "If we destroy the nest, the attacks might stop," she said. Niall smiled grimly. "Then that is our mission. We will take the fight to them." The next morning, the combined team prepared to move. The Deathworlders checked their weapons and armor. The scientists packed supplies and medical kits. Jorah gave a quiet speech. To both groups, "We came here to save lives," she said. "We must be brave but also wise. Let us work together and protect each other." The journey into the forest was slow. The trees grew taller and thicker, blocking out much of the sunlight. Strange sounds followed them everywhere. The creatures were watching. Remy walked close to Niall, feeling both fear and curiosity. "How do you stay so calm?" he asked. Niall looked at him with steady eyes. "We have lived in danger all our lives. We know how to survive and fight. You will learn to." Soon, the team reached the edge of the nest. It was a dark cave hidden behind thick vines and giant roots. Strange smells came from inside, sharp and sour. The scientists held back, but the Deathworlders moved forward. Niall gave orders for a careful attack. The warriors spread out around the cave's mouth, ready to block any escape. Then, the creatures inside sensed the attack and rushed out. This time, they were even more violent. The battle was loud and chaotic. The Deathworlders fought fiercely, their weapons fired in rapid bursts. They used hand-to-hand combat when the creatures got close. The forest was filled with the sounds of clashes and growls. Remy stayed near Jorah and Sella. He helped carry supplies and keep watch. The scientists stayed behind the warriors but shouted warnings when they saw danger. After a long fight, the nest was destroyed. The eggs were crushed, and the creatures fled. The forest grew quiet again. Niall looked at the team with pride. "We have won a great battle. The threat will lessen now." Jorah smiled but looked tired. "This is only the beginning. We must stay alert." The scientists thanked the Deathworlders for their strength. Jorah thanked Niall for his help. For the first time, the two leaders saw the value in each other's ways. That night, the team rested near the ruined station. The stars shone above, and the quiet was peaceful. But everyone knew the fight was not over. There were still dangers in the dark forest. Remy thought about the day's battle. He realized that strength was important, but so was care and hope. He looked at Niall and wondered if they could really learn from each other. The SOS signal had brought many things: fear, danger, but also new friends and courage. The journey was only just beginning. The sun rose slowly above the strange planet. The light filtered through the thick leaves of the forest, casting long shadows on the ground. Near the ruined research station, two very different groups gathered. The peaceful team from Zirin and the battle-ready Deathworlders faced a challenge much greater than the alien creatures. Jorah stood with her team, watching the Deathworlders prepare for another patrol. Their heavy armor and powerful weapons made them look like warriors from an old story. The scientists whispered among themselves, unsure of what would happen next. Remy felt the tension in the air. They want to fight, he said quietly to Sella. But we want to find peace, Sella nodded. Maybe we can teach them to understand, Niall. The leader of the Deathworlders noticed the hesitation. He called Jorah over. Your people do not fight like us, he said simply. But strength is the language of survival here. Jorah replied, we believe in talking first. Violence can bring more harm than good. Niall shook his head. This world is harsh. Only the strong live long. The two leaders stood face to face, each sure of their way. Both wanted to protect the scientists and stop the alien creatures. But their methods could not be more different. As the day passed, small disagreements grew. The Deathworlders wanted to patrol the forest in full force, ready to attack any threat. The Zerran team wanted to move quietly and observe. The scientists worried about the damage heavy weapons could do to the delicate environment. Jorah called a meeting under the tall trees. Both teams sat together, trying to find common ground. We all want safety, Jorah began. But we must respect this planet and each other. Niall listened, but his warriors shifted uneasily. One of them, a young fighter named Ern, spoke up. If we wait too long, the creatures will attack again. We need to act now. Remy raised his hand. What if we find a way to trap the creatures without killing them? Niall looked surprised. You want to catch them alive? Yes, Jorah said. We want to understand them. Maybe find a way to live without more fighting. The idea seemed strange to the Deathworlders. They were used to ending threats quickly and decisively. But the scientists' hope and calm made them pause. That afternoon, the two groups set out together. The Deathworlders led the way, their weapons ready. The Zerran team followed, carrying nets and cages designed to capture creatures without harm. As they moved through the forest, Remy noticed the differences. The Deathworlders were fast and strong, breaking through thick bushes without care. The scientists were careful, studying plants and tracks. Suddenly, a group of alien creatures appeared. They growled and charged. The Deathworlders raised their weapons and fired. Bright beams lit the dark forest. The creatures fell back but were not killed. Remy and the scientists used the nets to trap the creatures. The animals struggled but could not escape. Niall watched closely. Your plan works, he said. But we must be ready if more come. The teams moved the captured creatures to a safe area near the camp. The scientists began to study them carefully. They hoped to learn why the creatures attacked and how to stop it without more bloodshed. Jorah and Niall talked late into the night. They shared stories of their worlds. Jorah spoke of peace and healing. Niall spoke of survival and strength. Both saw the value in the other's words. Still, tension remained. The Deathworlders found the scientists' caution slow and frustrating. The scientists found the Deathworlders' power scary and dangerous. The next day, the captured creatures began to calm. The scientists discovered signs that the creatures attacked because their young eggs were threatened. The nest had been destroyed, and the creatures fought to protect their home. Jorah saw an opportunity. If we help the creatures find a new home, they will stop attacking. Niall hesitated. We can try, but we must be ready for war if needed, together. The teams searched for a safe place in the forest for the creatures. It was hard work. The Deathworlders used their strength to clear heavy brush. The scientists guided the creatures gently. Finally, a quiet valley was found. It had fresh water and enough space for the creatures to live. The creatures seemed to accept the new home. As the sun set, both groups gathered once more. They had worked together despite their differences. The scientists had shown patience. The Deathworlders had shown strength. Both were needed on this wild world. Jorah looked at Niall and said, we have learned from each other. Niall smiled. And the fight is not over, but together we are stronger. The SOS signal had brought more than rescue. It had brought a meeting of worlds, a chance to grow and change. The peaceful and the powerful now faced the future together, ready for whatever came next. The valley was calm in the early morning light. The alien creatures moved slowly, settling into their new home. The scientists watched closely, feeling hope for the first time since their arrival on the wild planet. The Deathworlders stood guard, their eyes sharp for any sign of danger. Jorah and Niall met by a small stream that flowed through the valley. They both looked tired but determined. The cooperation between their teams had brought some peace, but both knew this was only the beginning. Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the ground beneath them. The trees swayed, and a cold wind blew through the valley. The creatures stopped moving and looked toward the forest. "We are not alone," Niall said, his voice low. From the shadows, a new group appeared. These were not the alien creatures they had fought before. These were machines, large, heavy, and armed with strange weapons. They moved with cold precision and made no sound except the grinding of metal. The scientists gasped. The Deathworlders raised their weapons immediately. Jorah's heart beat fast. "What are those?" she asked. Niall's eyes narrowed. "They are hunters, not from this world. They are here to capture or destroy everything." The machines advanced, scanning the valley with glowing red eyes. The alien creatures became frightened and fled deeper into the forest. The scientists tried to follow, but the Deathworlders held them back. "We must fight," Niall said. "This is the real threat." Jorah nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Their world of peaceful study and cautious fighting was gone. Now, they faced an enemy that did not care for life or nature. The Deathworlders organized quickly. Their weapons glowed with power as they prepared for battle. Jorah helped gather supplies and protect the scientists. Remy checked equipment, ready for whatever came next. The machines began to attack. Energy beams cut through the trees, burning and breaking everything in their path. The Deathworlders fired back, their weapons powerful enough to damage the metal. Enemies! The ground shook with explosions. Jorah saw one machine move toward the scientists' tents. Without thinking, she ran and pushed the scientists to safety. A blast hit the ground where she had stood moments before. Niall called out orders, moving his warriors with precision. The Deathworlders worked as one, protecting their people and fighting the machines. Remy found himself in the middle of the chaos. He saw a small machine moving towards Sella, the medic. Without hesitation, he grabbed a heavy stick and struck it, causing the machine to stumble. The battle was long and fierce. The machines seemed to repair themselves quickly, rising again after each attack. It was clear they had come prepared for a long fight. But the Deathworlders had something the machines did not: heart and will. They fought with all their strength and skill. The scientists helped where they could, keeping the injured safe. After hours of fighting, the machines began to retreat. They moved back into the forest, disappearing like ghosts. Niall looked at his warriors, proud but exhausted. "This was only a warning," he said. "They will return with more power." Jorah placed a hand on his arm. "Then we must prepare." Together, the next days were filled with hard work. The two groups built stronger defenses around the camp. They trained for battle and worked to understand the machines better. The scientists studied the machines' remains. They discovered they were controlled by a distant force, a group that wanted to claim the planet for its resources. Jorah realized the SOS was a call not just for help, but for a fight to protect the wild world itself. Niall spoke to the team. "One evening, we are warriors and protectors. We will not let this world fall." The scientists agreed. They may have come for study, but now they stood ready to defend their new home. As the sun set, the group looked out over the valley. The creatures moved freely once again, and the forest seemed to breathe with life. But the war was not over. The true enemy was coming, and the Deathworlders and Zirans would face it side by side. The days passed slowly, but with great urgency. The camp near the valley grew stronger with each hour. Both the scientists from Ziran and the Deathworlders worked side by side. Walls were built from thick logs and metal scraps. Watchtowers rose above the trees. Traps and alarms were set around the perimeter. Everyone knew the machines would return, and they wanted to be ready. Jorah walked among the workers. She saw tired faces, but also determination. Even the Deathworlders, known for their fierce fighting, had started to show a softer side toward the peaceful scientists. A quiet respect was growing between them. Niall stood on a high platform, looking out at the forest. His warriors trained nearby, practicing moves and strategies. "We are not just fighting for survival," he said quietly. To himself, "We fight for this world and those who cannot fight." That night, the leaders held a meeting under the stars. Jorah, Nile, Mira, Remy, and others sat in a circle. The forest noises surrounded them like a living shield. "We know the machines will come back with more force," Jorah said. "We need a plan to stop them before they destroy everything." Nile nodded. "We will use our strength and skill to protect the valley, but we also need to learn their weaknesses." Mira, one of the lead scientists, shared what she had learned. "The machines are controlled by a central signal. If we can find and destroy their control source, we might stop the attacks." Remy added, "I believe the control comes from a large ship hidden in the forest. We need to find it and act fast." The group agreed. The next day, a small team was chosen to search for the enemy's control ship. Nile led the warriors, while Jorah and scientists accompanied them to help with knowledge of the terrain. The journey was dangerous. The forest was thick and full of hidden dangers. Strange sounds followed them, and the shadows seemed alive. One morning, as the team moved carefully through a narrow pass, the ground shook again. This time, the machines appeared from the trees, ready to attack. The warriors raised their weapons, and the battle began. Jorah and the scientists stayed behind, helping the injured and protecting the slower members. The fight was fierce, but the Deathworlders were strong and skilled. The machines fell one by one, retreating deeper into the forest. After the fight, the team pressed on. Soon, they found the enemy ship hidden in a cave surrounded by dense trees. The ship was large and dark, its surface covered with strange symbols and glowing lights. Nile looked at the group. "This is the heart of the enemy. We destroy this ship, the attacks will stop." Jorah nodded. "We must be careful. The ship may have defenses." The team prepared for the attack. They planned to move quietly, using their knowledge and skills. The Deathworlders readied their weapons. The scientists checked their tools. As they entered the cave, the air grew cold and heavy. The ship's lights flickered on, and alarms began to sound. Machines inside the ship woke and attacked immediately. The fight was intense. The warriors battled with fierce energy. The scientists worked quickly to find the control systems. Remy found a large console filled with buttons and glowing screens. "This must be the control center," he said. He began to work on disabling the systems. The machines tried to stop him, but the Deathworlders held them back. Nile fought with power and speed, protecting Remy and the others. With sweat on his brow, Remy pressed the final button. The ship shuddered and the lights went out. A deep silence followed. The machines outside stopped moving. The control signal was gone. Jorah smiled. "We did it." Nile nodded, a rare smile crossing his face. "Together, we are strong." The team returned to the valley as heroes. The alien creatures slowly returned to their home, no longer afraid or angry. The scientists and Deathworlders gathered for a final meeting before the rescue ships arrived. To take them home, Jorah spoke first. "This journey has taught us much. Strength and kindness can work together. We protect not just ourselves, but life itself." Nile added, "We will always remember this world and those who helped save it. We are more than warriors. We are protectors." As the stars shone bright above the valley, the two groups looked forward to their futures, changed by the wild planet and the bond they had formed. The sun rose softly over the valley, casting warm light on the camp that had grown strong through hardship. The alien creatures moved freely, peaceful and calm in their new home. The forest, once full of fear and danger, now seemed alive with hope and life. Jorah stood near the edge of the camp, watching the quiet scene. The SOS signal had brought her team to this wild world, a place full of challenges they never expected. But through courage and cooperation, they had made a difference. Beside her stood Nile, the fierce leader of the Deathworlders. His armor was scratched and worn from battles, but his eyes shone with quiet pride. The two leaders shared a look, one of respect and understanding that had grown from struggle and survival. The rescue ships had arrived the day before. The scientists had prepared to leave their new home behind, but none felt the same as before. The planet had changed them, and they had changed it too. Remy helped pack the last supplies. He thought about the friends he had made, warriors who had taught him strength, and scientists who had shown him hope. The journey had been dangerous, but it had also been a chance to grow. Sella, the medic, moved among the injured, making sure all were ready for the trip. She smiled softly at the creatures now resting peacefully nearby. "We saved them," she said quietly. Nile gathered his warriors for a final ceremony. They stood tall, proud, and strong. They had fought hard to protect this world and the people. Anna.Jora joined them. "Thank you," she said, "for your bravery and your friendship. We will carry this with us always." Nile nodded. "You have shown us that strength is not just in weapons, but in heart. We are better together." As the ships prepared to leave, the two groups made a promise. The Deathworlders would watch over the planet, protecting it from any future threats. The scientists would share their story with others, teaching the importance of respect and unity. The engines of the rescue ships roared to life. The ships lifted off, rising above the trees and into the sky. Jorah looked down at the valley, feeling a deep connection to the place and its people. The journey home was quiet. Each person thought about what they had learned. The wild planet had been a test, but it was also a new beginning. When the ships reached the space station, the scientists were greeted as heroes. They told stories of the Deathworlders' strength and the strange creatures they had saved. Their words inspired many to think differently about unknown worlds. Jorah spoke to the leaders of the space station. "We must remember that every world is worth protecting. Together, we can face any danger." The Deathworlders returned to their own world, proud and changed. They carried new ideas about peace and cooperation, as well as their fierce fighting skills. Back on their planet, Nile gathered his people. "We fought with firepower, but also with respect. We are not just warriors. We are protectors of life." The story of the SOS signal spread across many worlds. It became a symbol of hope, that even in the darkest places, courage and friendship can bring light. Jorah, Nile, Remy, and Sella stayed in touch, their bond strong despite the distance. They worked together on new missions, ready to face whatever challenges the universe would bring. The wild planet remained a reminder of what could be achieved when different people came together. It was a place where strength met kindness, and fear turned into hope. And so, the story ended, not with an end, but with a new beginning. A promise that no matter how dark the world may seem, there's always a chance for light, for unity, and for life to thrive.